Hey folks, and welcome back to Lonely Horror Guitars. So I had a little event in the shop the other day when I was gluing up a different neck to a body. Clamp slipped, sprung across the shop table, and took a divot out of this one, plus left a scrape here. So now this one had already been sort of designated as a demo guitar for a couple of other reasons. I wasn't entirely upset about the situation. It's an opportunity to do some learning. The most obvious learning is keep the, in-flight stuff away from each other so such things can't happen again. And that is in progress as I work on expanding the shop at the moment. But I did a couple things to try and see if we could alleviate the problem. So as you'll see here, I've done a little bit of a patch. And what I tried to do was match up the grain and see if I could embed a patched bit in here and see how well that turns out. Now, this isn't something that I would give a customer. I didn't really have very good choice in the woods, so I wasn't able to match the grain very well. But it was a first attempt, so let's, just take that as a learning and practice. And then the scuff itself, mostly steamed out. I think with a little bit more sanding we could probably get there, but I'm afraid to sand too deep in this. So what I've decided to do instead is some inlays. Now, sadly, one of my favorite kitties is about to cross the Rainbow Bridge. So I thought that this might be a good time to do very simple inlays. And this guitar can now be the Gary. So this is we'll see how this all works out. I started by doing a little pattern. And these are not paw prints from Gary. She would not have tolerated that kind of shenanigans, but stylized cat prints. I just printed them out, glued them on with a little PVA glue, and I will clean these out and make a template that I can route a recess in here. And then I've got a couple pieces of wood that I'm going to try and see how it comes out. I am leaning towards using the ebony, but I might use the koa. So this is the koa disc that came out of the rosette here. So that might look okay too. So I probably will cut out the inlays from both and give them a little eyeball. Maybe put that up for a vote, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so let's get going on making these router templates. Now we're just going to clean out this as much as we can with some Forstner and brad tip bits, and then we'll go ahead and clean it up with some rat tail files, and then do a final pass on the router table. But let's work on getting the bulk of this out first. And the small stuff, brad point drill bit does tend to work a little bit better. Forstners get really gummed up. So now we have a little template that we can use to put a recess in for our inlays. So we did a short asking folks what they liked, ebony or koa. And what I hadn't thought about, but some other folks did. Cat paws aren't like that. They're often mixed. And in fact, the kitty whose paws we are commemorating here are. And they're more like this. So, mixed slash both are taking it away. We're going to have an ebony toe bean out of koa, and an ebony pad on this side, and a koa pad on this side. So we're about to do our cuts. And what I have here is a 1/4 inch bearing bit. Now this is, it's kind of long on the cutting surface, so I did glue a little bit of plywood to my MDF template so that I can do the right height and have the bearing riding in a nice safe place. And I've done the height adjustment on the router using, I've got a little bit, this is what came out of the rosette when I cut it. So I want it to go into about half the depth there, and that is now locked in. So I've used a little double stick tape to tape my template down. The second template is, let me show you kind of here what I've done. So we don't want to use a lot of tape, just enough to hold it on there. I don't want to have to really work at it to pull it off when it comes time. I don't want to damage the rest of the top. But also, you know, we don't want it to move around or anything like that too. And the tape I've done pretty close to where the holes are, because this is, it's like a 25-foot radius. If I were to put tape on the outside edges, that might give you a little bit better grip on something flat, but on this, it's not even going to reach. So you can see that it's kind of wobbly. So we needed to tape real close to where the actual template holes are. Let's do this cut. I do have this clamped to the bench, not tightly. I don't want to squash the top or anything, but just to keep it from ruching. Taking it off easy. I have not sanded these to final size. But let's see if we can get sort of a first impression. So we're looking at something like that. Let's try a different one here. Okay, let's go ahead and do the second one. I'll do that one off camera. All right, the first inlay is fitted and ready to be glued in. I don't want to squinge a bunch of glue in here and then have a mess, so I'm just going to apply from here. Okay. You can use a scraper, pick up some of this excess. And then just take a little clamp just to give it some pressure. All right, everything is glued in and looking pretty good, but now we need to get it flush with the guitar top. Normally at this stage, I would not use any kind of powered sanding, but in this case, because of the ebony and the way ebony stains everything, I really want the suction to pull the dust away from the surface of the body so that I don't drive it into the grain and stain the top. So we are going to use a little bit of power here, but we're hooked up to the shop vac, so it should pull most of it. It should pull most of the dust out, and this is 120, so we won't go very fast and shouldn't leave much scuffing on the top, and then we can go over it with the fine stuff manually. So let's get going. Alrighty. Now our goof up is completely obscured. And this guitar shall be forever known as the Gary. So if this is the kind of content you like, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.